Hey, it's Alex from Android Central, and this is the Moto X Play from Motorola. It's the lower priced of the two Moto X models released internationally this year, the other being the higher spec Moto X style. It's selling for around £270 in the UK at launch, and at this price point you're actually getting quite a lot for your money. The Moto X Play comes with a 5.5-inch 1080p display that looks really great and vibrant, though you can dial this back in the settings if you want more natural looking colours. The body is made of plastic, not metal like the Moto X style, but the Play looks and feels solid and sturdy, with this chrome effect trim that expends some of the wear around the back of the phone. The soft touch back panel is removable, however that's entirely for decorative reasons. You can swap these out to change up your colours, but you can't remove the battery, and the microSD and nano SIM slots live in this tray of their own up at the top here. You can also customise the front, back and accent colours through Moto Maker, letting you create something totally unique. We've been using the basic black and grey model, and while it's nothing much to look at, particularly from the back where it's kind of visually busy, it feels good and doesn't clutter up the chassis with any unnecessary cruft. Around the front, it's worth mentioning that these aren't dual front-facing speakers, but in fact a regular earpiece and loudspeaker, like last year's Moto X. We've had no problems with the quality of audio from the speaker though, it's loud, clear and appropriately bassy. And the phone's actually water repellent as well, though that comes with a little warning that you shouldn't actually try to use it submerged in water. On the software side, the Moto X Play runs near-stock Android 5.1.1 Lollipop, along with Motorola's software additions, most of which are contained in the Moto app. So if you've used a Moto phone before, you've got all the tentpole features that you're familiar with, like Moto Voice for controlling your phone at a distance, Moto Display for keeping tabs on your notifications, and Moto Assist for automatically adjusting things when you're asleep, in a meeting, or driving. And really that's pretty much it. The rest of it is stock Android just as Google intended. There are tiny differences to what you'll find on a Nexus, but nothing of any real consequence. However, there are one or two caveats to mention when it comes to performance. The Moto X Play runs a Qualcomm Snapdragon 615 processor with 2 gigs of RAM, and sometimes that combination of hardware feels like it's maxed out powering a phone like this. We've seen stuttery animations, frequent app reloads, and general lag in day-to-day use on the Play, especially when multitasking heavily or streaming anything in the background. It's surprising to see a Motorola phone in 2015 shipping with noticeable performance issues, but that's what we have here on the Play, at least on the shipping firmware we've been testing. To be fair, this isn't a horribly slow phone by any means, but if you've used a high-end Android phone lately, you will be able to tell the difference. One of the Moto X Play's biggest selling points is its enormous 3630 mAh battery, which claims to provide up to 2 days of mixed use. Most of the time that's pretty accurate, and we finish most days with the Play at 50% or more. But there are fringe cases where it's possible to make the battery nosedive into the ground doing relatively innocuous things like web browsing or taking photos, and in those situations it's absolutely possible to kill off the battery in 12 or 13 hours. That said, in a year when Android flagships have generally under-delivered in the battery department, the Moto X Play remains very much ahead of the pack. The camera too is a bit of a mixed bag. It's a new 21MP Sony sensor behind an f2.0 lens, and with the same simple but capable Motorola camera app we've seen in previous generations. Motorola is really talking up the camera this year, and when you use it in daylight or in a reasonably lit indoor scene, it's clear to see why. You'll get fantastic looking photos from this phone, if there's a reasonable amount of light. Images are crisp and clear with vibrant colours, and Auto HDR mode kicks in where needed to capture details that might otherwise have been blown out. But there's no optical image stabilisation here, and that means proper low-light photography is largely underwhelming. There's a point at which things just become horribly underexposed or horribly grainy, and if you're shooting a city skyline at night or a meal in a dark restaurant, then you'll be disappointed. And the same goes with the 5MP front facer as well. Don't expect low-light selfies to match up to the likes of the HTC One M9 or the LG G4. Considering the price though, the camera experience is pretty good overall. And actually the same is true of the Moto X Play as a whole. But it strikes us as a phone which could have been much better were it not for those nagging performance issues. Hopefully it'll be possible to fix some of those through a firmware update, and if that happens the Play will become a really strong offering at this price point. Until then it's a phone worth considering, but far from an automatic recommendation to buy. For more on the Moto X Play, check out our full review on AndroidCentral.com.